Well, I guess let's get started, folks. I just wanted to go over, I'll just start. Hopefully, Thomas, you can make some comments about the latest assignment.
Yep.
But I'll just start with a look at the week ahead of us. Not a ton of excitement this week, relatively quiet. We're in module 4. We've only got a few chapters to look at. We've got the quiz at the end of the week, and we've got discussions this week. We're back on the discussion bandwagon, which will disappear again next week because the assignment will be due the end of next week. So I think we've both done a fair bit of marking. I know we've both done a fair bit of marking of the previous assignment. I'll make a couple comments and maybe you can chime in too, Thomas. I thought that overall it was sort of a mediocre performance. Some people did very well. There were some good assignments. My caution or my advice would be to carefully review the requirements. And I know I'm only talking to a few students at this point. Hopefully some more will watch this video and be able to learn from it. So certainly it's not directed at the students that are here right now specifically, but there were a lot of people that didn't bother to read the requirements. There was a lot of stuff that was very shallow and not analytical at all. For instance, and I'll just pick a couple companies, picking Amazon and comparing that to some other online retailer that's small and saying, well, Amazon's got this so many $1 billion of sales. This other retailer does not. Therefore, Amazon's online presence or online marketing strategy is working better. Well, no, you got to go way, way, way deeper than that. You've got to back up those kind of assertions and those sorts of comments. So there were a lot of that. There were a lot of people that just didn't address the requirements, or if they did do some analysis, it was of a very low quality. So that was somewhat disappointing overall with the assignment. What do you have a similar reaction, Thomas, or what's your comments?
I do. So many of them I've watched definitely are on the right track. What I think got missed is, in any course, when you're doing an assignment, you always want to be bringing in course material. That is the key component, and I think we've reiterated that several times. It's in the instructions in the video, and the rubric is that, if you're Googling everything and just kind of bringing stuff in, you've got to kind of prove your argument, and your first go-to is always course material, because that's what, Andy has based the theoretical material on. Of course, the textbooks, right? The textbooks are mandatory. So what I would say is, as you get your marks back, read through the rubrics. Please make sure you can find the rubric on your grade center. Andy and I do not have a viewpoint of a student. Like, we don't have our own personal grade center where we can go in and look at the same view that you have. So make sure you can go in and find the rubric, because that's where we leave the feedback. Okay. And use that to your advantage for assignment 2, which I will talk about today. Because really, any course you're taking, like, otherwise, why have an assignment, right? If you teach electronics, for example, if I'm teaching electronics about this week I'm teaching the silicon diode, and you bring in a set of headphones, that's not going to work, right? Like, we're always working on course material. So please keep that in mind as you go through. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would say that beyond that, we're on discussion 3 now. You should have probably feedback from two other discussions, potentially, at least. Take a look at that feedback. We try and leave it on purpose to try and guide you towards exactly what we're looking for. We've got previous office hours that we've talked at length about discussions. We've got material and APA formatting and all sorts of things like that. So at this point, we will be weaning back on the amount of feedback that's provided for discussion 3, with the expectation that we've already covered it a couple times. And if it's been ignored for 2 times, then it's probably not going to be worthwhile saying it for a 3rd time. So on the other hand, people that are paying attention are likely to be getting perfect marks or darn near perfect marks on the discussions moving forward, because the requirements should be crystal clear at this point. And I don't think we're particularly harsh markers on the discussion. If you present something that's 500 or 700 words long with a few cited references, properly cited in APA format with some decent meat to your analysis, you're going to get perfect. It's not, we don't get too far into the weeds and saying, well, I disagree with this or that. We're just looking for a well-reasoned argument, whether we agree or not with it. So, and keep in mind that this is a weird week with the holiday. That first post is due tonight. It'll seem a little weird, but that post 1 is due tonight. And then of course, Friday for the 2nd post. I think that's all the comments that I had from an administrative point of view. Are there any questions at this point? Is there anything that anyone wants to bring up and discuss at this point before we move and talk about the upcoming assignment 2? Okay, I'll turn it over to Thomas.
All righty. So we're going to talk about assignment 2. I'll share my screen if I have such privileges. I do. All right, so assignment 2 has been released. I will release a video for this. I just have to tweak some things about the video, and I'll get that posted as soon as I can. However, the instructions are pretty clear. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way? I was recording a whole bunch of stuff this weekend. Funny story, the one person that I play with in a band, he recorded a video that went viral, and then radio stations started asking for a second, like an update to it. So I spent the whole weekend marking and recording. So my recording setup might be wonky. So if anything sounds distorted, please let me know, because I always try to make my sound quality the best I can. So assignment 2, worth 15% of your final mark. Now, this is I realize that when you see a group project, it probably raises some red flags. However, Andy and I have worked together for quite some time and have honed this assignment so that you are being marked for a high percentage of the marks on your contribution. Okay. The shared component is what frames the assignment. Okay. So keep that in mind throughout. Excuse me. So what you're going to do is you've been assigned a group already. Andy has assigned the groups with no more than 5 students. And what you're going to do is you're going to assist a small to medium-sized business in leveraging the online business principles that we've learned in this course to gain and sustain a competitive business advantage. All right. So we've given you a fictitious business and just a very, very brief synopsis of what they do. And then you're going to flesh that out in your report. All right. And that's going to frame your solutions that you're making for that company. Okay. So, yeah, but keep that part brief, right? Please note, and we'll go through the rubric today. Please note where the marks are. And, I would assume that most of you are in different groups. Make sure that you're going, when you're meeting with your teams, that you're looking at that. Like if you're spending massive amounts of time on the fictitious part, that's not where the prize is. That's not where the points are or the marks. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose, Andy and I have went through and picked, that's my partner.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Well, that was rude.
That's Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Yep. So now what you see is that teachers, yes, we're human and things like that happen. Okay, so you're going to pick one of these topics. Search engine optimization or SEO, leads conversion. These are the main, big topics of the course. Each member you choose your own strategy. All right. So there shouldn't be, two people aren't doing web analytics or something like that. That's pretty easy to understand. And then we've provided a template, and then you're going to provide this formal business report on how this business should use your chosen strategy. All right. So this is what I'm going to call, or that's what we're calling, is a culminating task. You may remember that term from high school, right? Because this is kind of like now we're taking, find out which strategy really resonates with you, and then apply that to your own case study is basically how that's working. Okay. So again, we're providing the template, and we'll go through that. We've provided lots of resources in the template. There shouldn't be too much confusion there. Standard late penalty, any document you're writing, unless somebody specified something different, 12-point font double spaced. Times New Roman's a great choice. Calibri, Arial, right? Don't do anything too funky. And each section you're looking for around 700 words, right? So if you've got 700 words to work with, that you're going to have to edit that down and really hone in on your arguments and deliver that to us in a concise, clear package. Alrighty, so standard late penalty. Now, references, citing and referencing. Going through assignment 1, part 2, there are some people that don't understand citing and referencing. If you have a problem that we've provided resources, you can email us if you have further questions. But we have the website up, which is OWL Purdue. I'm going to just put that in the chat window very quickly. Just do a search for that, and I'm sure we have it linked on the website or on D2 Blackboard. Sorry, you need to be going to that, because anything that you're citing, it's there. It shows you exactly how to do it. All right, citing and referencing is a pain. However, it needs to be done.
It's under course content general.
Perfect.
The OWL Purdue link, as well as a great video. I think we've talked about this before. A great video by the Academic Skills Group. And if you watch the video and sort of take your questions to the website and keyword search on there, you will absolutely know everything that we need you to know for APA format. For sure. Yeah. And that's just going to carry on throughout, beyond what you're doing here. Citing and referencing is, you've got to be able to show whoever your document is for where you got that material. You're stating an argument. Oh, Samantha has actually posted a link there as well. That's great. Thank you, Samantha. One key thing to remember here, citing and referencing is mandatory and non-negotiable, right? This is Andy and I's belief. Know it, learn it, live by it, right? We want you to be able to write in an excellent format, okay? Primary source has to be course material, the textbooks, the readings. Okay, if you're going to Google everything, you are going to be not happy with your mark. Okay, because, and you will want to tell this to your teams, what happens is it becomes very, very difficult to mark an assignment where somebody hasn't used course material, because terms are very fluid, right? You may have found that looking at the loyalty ladder, what we wanted everybody to do was use the definition of the loyalty ladder from the textbook. But if you Google enough, I'm sure you will find variations on that, right? So keep that in mind. You need to be doing course material, okay? And it's in APA format. If you have any problems, just message us. Now, you need a bare minimum of 3 resources per section. That's a bare minimum. I would expect to see much more than that, right? Argument, proof, 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 right? And then you're citing your proof, okay? Little tip, since we're all here, avoid direct quotes. Direct quotes do nothing for the readability of your document, all right? Just, I'm stating X, I'm proving it with Y, and then you cite Y, right? Or Z or whatever. Don't do direct quotes. It's a waste of time. It can work. I'm an English teacher, certified English teacher through the Ontario College of Teachers, and I still don't use them. Only if it really, there's something that can be done with that really impacts the document, maybe in an introduction or something, but I avoid them. It's just easier,
right? So we're going to just take a look at the rubric there. Now, this is the key thing about the group project, is that your individual section is 85%. And then the common elements are the 15%. And the common elements are what frame the arguments, right? Frames the whole paper. Okay, so that should be pretty clear. Right here will be a video once I edit it down. Here's your template. I have that somewhere. There you go. So here's the template. Standard business report template. Please change the pictures. Right, we have to mark a lot of these. It's great if you can change these pictures up. Right, make it yours. Right. The company name, we'll talk about that in a sec. The company you're making it for. Make your own little logo for your team. Throw it in there. This is all fictitious, by the way. All right, and then we've labeled exactly where to fill in your thing. So first of all, you have an executive summary. You write this last, I believe, anyways. You get everything done, and then you go back and you write your summary. All right, you can't write it at the beginning because there's no information there. You are using this to describe the business you are creating this for, and we'll talk about this in a second. But it's brief, fictitious. However, you're going to flesh that out a bit so that it frames your solutions. Okay, and then simple here. Right, so each person section, you name your strategy that you've chosen, your name, and your text, and paste it in. Now, what happens if you have a team member or group member that doesn't submit anything? People can take a guess if they wish. You leave it blank. Do not fill it in for another member, right? So let's say you've got your 4 strategies and one student did not submit anything, just leave it blank. Okay? And I'll talk more about this in the video. All right, they do not get a free 15%. Nothing here, no free 15%. Okay? Then you conclude the report. That's a collaborative effort. And then you do your reference list. Now, references, APA formatting, we've done this before. Don't separate them by group member. This is a collaborative document. All the references will be in one big list, just like any document, no matter how many authors the document has. Okay? And that's how that works. Okay? And finally, what I want to talk about is the case. Well, I'm going to talk about 2 things. The case studies, right? So these are just very, basic outlines of various companies, and you've been assigned one of these. You don't pick one, you've been assigned it. All right, so you're going to want to do some research on similar companies to see what they're doing, for example. I wish there could be bonus marks for anybody that can figure out the ones I made, because it's not hard. Oh man, I will give you one hint though. Fruity McFruitface, that is the epitome of my teaching career right there. That's excellent. So anybody that got that one is going to like it. But anyways, that's your case studies. You're assigned one, you use that. All right, and then the rubric, you've got major points here for your quality. You've proofread it, it's structured well, you've spell checked and so on. And then there's 9 marks for your content. All right. We're looking for in-depth view, an in-depth viewpoint here. Your different strategy and your proof, why that would work, related to course material. Citing and referencing, of course. Here's what's going to happen if you have, if you've got a bunch of, you have no citing, but you've put stuff in the reference list, you will get 0 here, and it will impact your content mark. Okay, they go hand in hand, right? Especially in an undergrad paper. Oh, excuse me. I got a bit of allergies. And then the general point, the general spot, there's a few marks there, but that really frames the assignment. So usually we have pretty high marks in the general component. Keep in mind, as you're working with your teams, the idea here too with the group assignment is that everybody is becoming sort of a check-in with each other, a quality assurance, right? So, one person posts things, we would hope that the team members are proofreading that and maybe messaging saying, hey, by the way, X or Y or Z or whatever, or, hopefully you can work together to make this a very fine-tuned machine as far as a document goes. That's the hope anyways. So if anybody has any questions for that, I can answer them.
I will weigh in while we're waiting. If someone has a question, feel free to jump in at any time or put it in the chat, whichever. A few things, time and time again, Thomas and I have done this many times. The executive summary, when people do that, they do an introduction. That's not what an executive summary is. Please do a little bit of research, understand what an executive summary is. Hint, what Thomas said that it's done as the very last thing is critical because it is a summary of all the other content that's below, including all the conclusions. So the design of an executive summary is such that a busy executive that doesn't need to be in the weeds and know every single detail can read that 250 to 450 word section and understand everything that the paper says without getting into specifics. So that's what it's for. For instance, the way I think about it is a briefing that goes to the president or the prime minister. I'll say the president for political reasons. President's desk. He doesn't have time to read a 700-page report from an intelligence service, but he sure can read the 500-word summary that tells him that so-and-so is building a nuclear arsenal, right? So he may not know what has been done, and he can always look through that report if he needs further detail, but it's a high-level summary of what's contained in the rest of the report. So that's one comment. That's something that we see an awful lot of the time. That's a very common feedback comment. Executive summary is not an introduction. Thomas touched on this, but I'll emphasize it. Work with your team so that you're using a common name. Like sometimes people will use an acronym, for instance. My company deals with Canadian Nuclear Labs, which is shortened to CNL a lot internally. In the presentation, you should always refer to it all consistently. So you don't want someone calling it Canadian Nuke and someone calling it Nuclear Labs and someone calling it CNL and someone calling it Canadian Nuclear Labs, as an example. So look through for consistency, look through for commonalities like the font. We don't want to see Arial 12 for one section followed by Times New Roman 12 for the next, make it consistent. Do that last edit. To me, as a group member, I would always have my last hands on it just to go through and make sure that everything was consistent, even after the content's been agreed on. And the last little minor thing, probably not even worth marks, but that reference list that we talked about, it should be in alphabetical order by author. That's the way, because we do, trust me, when we mark, we do go to that reference list. And if the reference list with a group of 5 gets to be 20 or 30 long, and I got to look through every single one to find Taylor, comma A, then that's just going to be a little frustrating for the marker, and they probably will take a mark off for that. So that's those were my comments just based on our past experience. Overall, these things are usually really, really well done. All you're really doing is a discussion post, honestly, 700 words with 3 or more references. So hopefully the skills that you're developing with this discussion post will really help you with this project. And then you've got some combined, some executive summary, some introduction or other sections. I don't think we actually have an intro, but other sections that you have to work with, a conclusion, those sorts of things. So yeah, I think it's a culminating project. We've tried to give you the skills and the experience along the way to build towards this. So that's really all I have to say about it. Again, we're open for questions.
I think one thing I'll mention just before we say questions, one thing that happens with this document, we've marked, a squillion of them. I think, is squillion a word? I think squillion has worked. We've marked a whole bunch of these, and I've been in this course since 2014. I've marked 5,000 assignments or something. It's a stupid amount of number. The one thing that keeps coming up time and time again is it's very simple to tell people that haven't read the course material. They do not own the textbooks. Right. So just be aware if you're not pulling that out, referencing it, it shows us that you can apply and synthesize that. Otherwise, having an assignment is just a waste of time. Right. We just might as well make it a freeform course where you get to Google everything. And that is not how a course works. Not at a third year university course anyways. So keep that in mind. Again, if you have any questions, we're not hard to find. I don't move from this chair much. So I've been here pretty much since 9:30 this morning. So.
And it seems your partner is trained to come to you. So that's fantastic.
Well, I still have to go and cook dinner.
Excellent.
Yeah. She's just so you know, everybody, if you're there, my partner is a vice principal. She's been sitting at her desk since like 7:30. So, yeah. But good. Any other questions?
If you have questions, feel free to log off. I will post this when we're done recording. I'll stick around to answer questions until all you folks have packed up and left. So.
Once everybody's left, Andy, if you and I can have a 3 to 5 minute conversation.
Sure, of course.
Then I got to put some chicken on the barbecue.
Nice. Nice.
You need 3 sources minimum. And really, we want to see you using the textbook. Now, remember, sources isn't citing. Right? Like you might be citing the textbook multiple times and then some sort of external resource 1 or something like that. Right? So you need to be able to, and I've put this in my feedback for assignments and stuff, using the resources is not, you don't think of them as a requirement. Right? The reason that we set 3, because that's really a bare minimum. If you take a look at the OWL Purdue website and you go through their sample essay, you really get a sense on what citing is all about and the frequency in which an undergraduate document or paper or essay should be cited. I know when I specialized in science fiction in my cultural studies degree, and the amount of citing in those documents, by the time I got to 4th year was insane. So. Good question though, Carolyn. Well, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good, guys. Feel free to go on with your day. Good luck in the discussion tonight and have a good week. Get a good jump on this assignment just because it is a decent amount of work and there's time zone delays and everything else. So if you don't hear from someone, don't sweat it. Just carry on without them and we will ultimately see that they're not participating.